Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome to the May 8th, 2017 County Commission meeting. I'm going to call on Sheriff Fuson to call the meeting to order, and in honor of National Police Week, read President Kennedy's Proclamation 3537, and then lead us through the posting of the colors and our Pledge of Allegiance. After the Montgomery County Sheriff's Office Honor Guard has left the meeting, I will then call on Commissioner Joe Creek to lead us in our invocation. Sheriff Fuson.
All rise. Oh yes, this Honorable Board of County Commissioners is now in session pursuant to adjournment. Now may God save this state and this Honorable Board of County Commissioners. Proclamation 3537, Peace Officers Memorial Day and Police Week by President John F. Kennedy. Whereas from the beginning of this nation, law enforcement officers have played an important role in safeguarding the rights and freedoms which are guaranteed by the Constitution and in protecting the lives and property of our citizens. And whereas, through constant application of new procedures and techniques, such officers are becoming more efficient in their enforcement of our laws. And whereas, it is important that our people know and understand the problems, duties, and responsibility of their police departments and the necessity for cooperating with them in maintaining law and order. And whereas it is fitting and proper that we express our gratitude for the dedicated service and courageous deeds of law enforcement officers and the contributions that they have made to the security and well-being of our people. And whereas by joint resolution approved October the 1st, 1962, the Congress has requested the President to designate May 15th of each year as Peace Officers Memorial Day and the calendar week during which such week, May 15th, occurs as Police Week. Now, therefore, I, John F. Kennedy, President of the United States of America, do hereby designate May 15th of 1963 and May 15th of each succeeding year as Peace Officers Memorial Day in honor of those peace officers who, through their courageous deeds, have lost their lives and have become disabled in the performance of their duty. I also designate the week of May the 12th through May 18th, 1963, and the calendar week during which May 15th occurs as such succeeding year as Police Week in recognition of the service given by the men and women who night and day protect us through enforcement of our laws. I invite state and local governments, patriotic, civic, and educational organizations, and the people of the United States generally to observe Peace Officers Memorial Day and Police Week in this year and each succeeding year with appropriate ceremonies in which all of our people may join in commemorating law enforcement officers, past and present, who by their faithful and loyal devotion to their responsibilities have rendered dedicated service to their communities and in so doing have established for themselves an inviolable and enduring reputation for preserving the rights and security of all citizens. In witness thereof, I have hereunto set my hand and caused the seal of the United States of America to be affixed. This was done at the city of Washington this 4th day of May in the year of our Lord, 1963, and of the independence of the United States of America, the 187th. If y'all would join with me in the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you.
Commissioner Creek, will you lead us in our invocation?
Let us continue to have a period of silence in honor of for this dead, our sheriff, who served honorably here in Montgomery County. Our Father and our God, we thank you for your watch care. We pray especially for the Sheriff Smith's family now, and we thank you for his dedicated service. Lord, we thank you so much for all that you've done for us. Your hand on our lives are so much more than we could ever ask for, and our blessings are greatly appreciated. I ask that you continue in the presence of our lives. I ask that you continue to give us a heart and a desire to serve and make a better world, a better place. We pray for our nation and our leaders during these difficult times, and all those who are seeking to bring peace and justice to a troubled world. We pray especially for your protection on those who serve in armed forces, and we thank you for their freedoms and their service. We be with their families and assure them that your love and concern for them will always be there. It says in Psalms 37, verse 4 and 5, delight thyself also in the Lord, and he shall give thee thy desires of thine heart. Commit thy way unto the Lord, and trust also in him, and he shall bring it to pass. Thank you for this legislative body, and they're willing to serve. Just lead and guide, direct us tonight as we make decisions. And in those cases where our views differ, we ask that you allow us to respect each other. For it's in Christ's name I pray. Amen. Amen.
Ms. Jackson, would you please read the roll?
We have 21 present, 0 absent.
Thank you, ma'am. At this time, we have a presentation by Ms. Martha Hendricks on a branch library concept. Martha, good evening.
Good evening, Mayor. I guess Skip is not going to bring up that first slide. Okay. Good evening, everyone. We appreciate you allowing us to present tonight. I know it's a full evening. And before we present the concept, I would like to say a few words about where we are in this process. The last time we were here was in September of 2015. We showed you our strategic plan. We also presented the expansion plan for library services in Montgomery County, at which time basically told you that the main big thing that we wanted to do first was to build a 25 to 30,000 square foot library building in North Clarksville. So we're missing about 110,000 square feet of library in this county. And we've been quite busy since then. I'd like to give you an update on what we've done since then. After that, we did some visioning. We visited libraries both locally, and we went all the way to Iowa, some of us, to take a look at a library that was a model for us both in the building and in the services that they provide. We then hired the library board, who I'd like to, several members of which are sitting here tonight, if you want to raise your hand. Hired an architectural firm, also Mr. Commissioner Gildersleeve. This is a nationally known architectural firm, HBM, to help us with site selection. So we started out with 7 different sites, quickly narrowed them down to 3. And then again, we had a community meeting, and this is something that we did through the strategic planning process, was getting community input. So we went to North Clarksville, had a meeting, gathered that input. Commissioners were invited, several did attend, and we appreciate that. And then the library board had soil boring, soil testing done on the top 3 sites. We also had traffic studies done on 2 of the sites that required it. All this data was put together by HBM, and they came up with a decision and a recommendation for the library board to build a North Branch library at the site of Fort Campbell Boulevard in Lady Marion. I don't know if you all know where that is. And there were several reasons for this. The top reasons were probably the visibility. It's very easy to see from the roadway, so it's got maximum visibility. It already has an established traffic signal at that light, which is really important. The traffic study showed that there would not be a negative impact of having a library at that intersection. And it was also at the right spot according to our plan. It was pretty much exactly where we wanted it to be. So the next step was to ask HBM to come up with a concept, which is what we're going to show you this evening. All told, we've spent over $150,000, non-taxpayer dollars, on doing our due diligence with this branch concept and the entire planning process for it. And at the current time, I would have liked to have had this presentation a couple of months ago, but we've been working on trying to acquire the land. We're not quite there yet, but we're working on it. And when I attended the capital projects hearing 2 weeks ago, I had a discussion with Commissioners Vallejos and Commissioner Riccone. And it seemed at that time that there was kind of a disconnect about the library. And they seemed to be saying to me, and you can correct me if I'm wrong, why should we expand library services? We've got the internet, we've got digital books. It seems that attendance is trending downward at the library. If we don't need the main library, why would we want to expand services? And that kind of took me aback. I was a little bit shocked as somebody that has always loved libraries and works in a library every day and sees what goes on. And I wanted to have another crack at that answer because I don't believe that I answered that very well at that hearing. So I would like to talk about it a little bit. In terms of foot traffic at the library, I think that this is something that is not just an issue at libraries. This is something that's spread across society. Things have changed. The internet has changed everything. Foot traffic is an issue at all bricks and mortar stores. Starbucks is having trouble with foot traffic, but that doesn't mean that Starbucks is not going to continue to expand. They just have to change their business model, and libraries have to do the same thing. They have to make their bricks and mortar buildings more attractive to people that want to come in, and we're going to be doing that at the library. We're going to be doing a lot of changes, and we did talk about that today with a designer from HBM. So we will be addressing that. We're going to put a cafe in the library. We're going to make it very comfortable, that sort of thing. But we still have 350,000 people that are walking in the library every year. It's not like the library doesn't have people coming in. Let's talk about ebooks for a minute. Ebook sales dropped last year by over 18%. That doesn't mean, I'm not saying that ebooks are going to come back strong or anything, but we've reached kind of an equilibrium between ebooks and print books. Print books are not going away. We circulate, 61% of our circulation is ebooks. 15% is digital books, and 25% are the rest of the types of things that we circulate, such as DVDs, CDs, et cetera. So what else does the library do? We provide technology. One of the first things that happened when the internet came along was that people stopped using print reference books. They just stopped. So librarians took a breath and they said, is this real? And we said, yes, it is real. So we took those books out and we started spending our money on something other than print reference books. And we've been doing that in all areas of the library for years. We have RFID technology, self-checkouts at the library. If you've been in there, you'll know that you don't stand in line to the elevator like you used to 8 years ago when I first walked in the door. RFID self-checkout, the same technology that you use to start your car with you have a key in the pocket instead of putting it in the ignition. We have that at our library. Nashville Public doesn't have RFID technology. So we are on the cutting edge of technology at our library. What do people do when they enter the library portal online? They check out digital books, yes, they do. They also use our music service. They also do learn languages online. Children's services. This is the heart of the library. We still provide what you would consider traditional library services. Early childhood literacy. We have programming all the way from when your child is born, through toddler stage, through tweens, through teens. We still provide those services. The library is also a venue. We have very large events at the library. If you've ever been to our sci-fi program, we had over 800 people attend the sci-fi program last fall. This is very emotional for me. This has taken a long time to get here, so I apologize. Our sci-fi program had over 800 attendees. If you think the library is not relevant, come to Read Across America. Over 1,000 people came on a Sunday. This is something that's put on at the school system, by the school system at the library. Harry Potter night. Over 1,200 people attended Harry Potter night at the library. We're going to start showing movies at the library next year. We've purchased a movie license. Families come together at the library. They make memories. They're educated. They're entertained. It is the community living room. Libraries have changed so much. We are not quiet anymore. Someone just said so true. I get a couple of complaints a year from people who wish that libraries could be what they used to be. People who are my age and older, and they say, why is the library not quiet anymore? And I politely say, well, if you want a quiet library, you're not going to have a library anymore, because libraries cannot continue in the same way that they did. So we just have had to make that change. We're going to create quiet study areas, but we are not going to have a quiet library anymore. In fact, we have band concerts. The 101st Band plays at the library, and it's my favorite night of the year. Meeting rooms is another integral part of what the library has to offer. We have over 98 groups that use our meeting rooms on a regular basis. We have 4 meeting rooms, and we wish we had more. These are the people that are the bedrock of the community, and they do the good work, the grassroots work of our community. These are just a few of them. Alzheimer's Support Group, Campbell Baby Blankets, Veterans Transitional Housing Program, Native Cultural Circle, Mount Olive Historical Society, myriad of book clubs, garden clubs, etc. And these people rely on these free meeting rooms. We don't charge for our meeting rooms. We also have many other people that use the meeting rooms on a non-regular basis. So this is to tell you that the library is more than just going online and checking out a book. It is an integral part of people's lives, and there are so many people that do not have a computer, don't have Wi-Fi at home, and they need the library. We're now checking out mobile hotspots so people can take the internet home with them. The families that don't have internet can take the internet home with them. I want to tell you about how the other large cities in Tennessee value their libraries. We are the 5th largest city in the state. Everybody knows that, correct? And this is a Montgomery County Commission meeting, but within this county is the 5th largest city in the state. If you go to Memphis, which has a population of approximately 827,000 people, they have 18 libraries. If you do the math on that, that's 46,000 people that are served per library. If you go to Nashville, they have 22 libraries. They have about 679,000 people in Nashville that they serve. It comes out to about 31,000 people per library. Knoxville in Knox County, 450,000 people with 19 libraries. That's 24,000 people per library. Chattanooga, this is a city system. Population of about 176,000 people. 4 libraries serving 44,000 people. Clarksville, Montgomery County Public Library. The math is very easy on this one. Our official service population is 193,479 people. And I've seen in the paper that it's really 195,000 people now. 1 library, 0 branches. So we're serving 193,000 people with 1 library downtown. Essentially, we are not serving this community. We're serving the people that live nearby. But are you really going to put your kids in the car at 3 o'clock on a Friday afternoon, drive across town to the downtown library? I don't think so. It's too big a barrier. So we are not serving our population in Montgomery County. I'm your county librarian. I'm a little excited about this. I'm a little emotional about it. And I'm not doing a great job of selling it, but I don't know who else is going to tell you this. other than me, and I don't know why it hasn't been addressed before this time. I've lived here, it'll be 25 years in August, and this has always been on the table. When I applied for my job at the library as assistant director, they asked about branch libraries. Sumner County has 5 libraries. Cheatham County has 2 libraries. Clarksville has 1 library. So I would ask you to think about that. And one more thing, this library in its location can be much more than a library. Because of its location, because of that incredible property that we're looking at, if you put this library in this location and you build it, it can send a message to the world. It can be much more than a library. Yes, it can provide library services that are badly needed in this county, but it can do so much more. If you're going to spend $12 million on something, which is the all-in cost for this library. And I remind you that the commission, I've been coming to these meetings for 8 years. The commission spent $10 million on Rich Ellen Park in South Clarksville. So if you're going to spend $12 million, why not make every single cent of that count? Have it be on display 24 hours a day, 7 days a week on one of the busiest roadways in the county. This can send a message out to those people who are thinking about retiring in Montgomery County, people that are the powers that be at Fort Campbell that are trying to decide whether they're going to shrink or expand Fort Campbell. We had that scare a couple of years ago. So this sends a message out to them, and then you send a message out to industry, people like LG and the other companies, Hancock, to come to Montgomery County, because you can see the Montgomery County government is investing in their community. And this, we also talked with the mayor about possible TIF district that the library could provide development alongside. We could have a district where high-quality development would happen around the library. And the one refrain I heard all through this process that I never really had understood was that North Clarksville never gets anything. North Clarksville never gets anything. I think Commissioner Vallejo said it again at the budget hearing that I attended. So right now this project sits with the budget committee, and it has a status of, what is the status? It hasn't been approved and it hasn't been rejected. It's been postponed. So I would urge the budget committee to move this forward so that the full commission can consider it next month. So with that, I will stop talking, and everyone will be quite happy. And I will ask Kevin Kennedy from HBM to come up and give our concept presentation. Thank you.
Thank you, Martha, and thank you, commissioners, for the opportunity to present this concept of the North Branch Library to you. I'm not sure if I have control of the slides. I do. And I just want to start off by showing you a couple of graphs, and there's a lot of small printing on it, so don't worry if you can't read every word. But this is a graph that shows libraries from the beginning of really library history, and from early on, and the first date is in the 1100s. For quite a while, libraries were really about a place where books were kept and you could go and study and take books out. And then as time progressed and we got into the 19th century, a lot of other things started happening that libraries had to pay attention to and started collecting. Newspapers, magazines, photography happened, art, galleries, records, cassettes, CD-ROMs. This is kind of an old slide, and things have happened even since then with DVDs and some of the digital media that we have now. So the things that libraries were containing expanded greatly and expanded fairly recently in the history of libraries. Similarly, and this isn't quite reaching as far back, this graph, as the first one, but again, in the 19th, 20th centuries, libraries started doing things beyond just housing media. They started to offer programs, whether it was children's specific collections, adult education, outreach, all kinds of training. Lots and lots of things started happening in libraries beyond just the housing of books. And I think really the point I want to make about both of those slides is the way we approach library design today. Libraries are no longer a place to house books, but a place for people to be. And of course, books are absolutely a part of that balance, but a modern 21st century library embraces a lot of things beyond just the media that are in them. And I think Martha spoke very, very well to a lot of those things. That being said, my practice is 95% libraries. We do them all over the country, and we're really busy. So I can say that from at least our practice's standpoint, libraries are transforming themselves all over the nation, and they don't seem to be going away, at least from our standpoint, and we're pretty happy about that. In terms of the concept for the North Branch, Martha mentioned the site. Here's just a couple of photos showing that intersection of Lady Marion and Fort Campbell. The slide on the left is looking south on Fort Campbell, and the slide on the right is looking east into a wooded area that separates the site from a residential neighborhood very close. This slide shows on the left looking up Lady Marion Road into that residential area, and then the slide on the far right is the corner of Fort Campbell and Lady Marion looking north. It's a little hard to tell in this view, but you're up pretty high. You're up about 8-9 feet above grade. So this site is, as you're driving up and down Fort Campbell, very visible and very prominent to that street. So I'm going to show you in a little bit a lot of images of this new design from a lot of different angles, but just to orient you and give you a sense of what you're seeing, it's a pretty simple building. It's really divided into 4 main pieces. The purple is the staff area. The dark green is the adult collection. The greenish yellow is the children's area, and then in the bottom right, the blue are a series of meeting rooms. So these are the main spaces that the library will contain, and then in the center, the light yellow is the main entry. So you'll be coming in from the parking lot side. But there's a lot of roofs that are happening and cascading around, but it's really a very simple organizational plan. So here it is, really the full site showing Fort Campbell running north-south and Lady Marion up at the top. The main entrance to the library would be off of Lady Marion Drive. Fort Campbell is a little bit too large, and we wouldn't want to stop traffic to turn into the library as the main entry. The parking lot is roughly centered on the building so that there'll be a minimal distance that people will have to walk to get into the entrance. And then there's a secondary exit from the parking lot to Fort Campbell. That requires a little bit more study, but the plan for that is you would be able to leave the parking lot and make a right only onto Fort Campbell, and you would actually be able to come in right turn only off of Fort Campbell as just a secondary way in and out to avoid some of the major traffic. And I should also mention that from Lady Marion south, as the drawing drops down, Fort Campbell Boulevard is lowering as well, and we're taking advantage of that in our design. So with that that setup, these views are, they're not photorealistic renderings. They're just initial computer colored diagrams, really. And so you'll have to imagine a little bit what some of this stuff looks like. But this is a view looking south on Fort Campbell at that corner, which is raised up a little bit, and you can see the stepping of the green area. And then the building sits a little bit back or a little bit down from the corner, not quite on the edge. And what we're looking at doing is taking advantage of the dramatic slope of Fort Campbell South by raising our buildings' roofs over two of the prominent areas, which are the adult and children along Fort Campbell. And if I show you this side, this is the other view going north on Fort Campbell. The mass on the right is the children's area, and the space on the left is the adult area. And so we're using the site to help us create some of the drama of the building. The floor stays flat in the building, but the site slopes down around it. The roofs would be made of probably metal. We're using wood and glass and stone as the other major materials. We're trying to keep as much open light into the space as we can. On the mass on the left side, we'll get low western sun. On the right side, there's a little bit less glass. On the right-hand side mass, that gets a little bit of the southern sun. So we're reacting to how the sun tracks around the building, making sure that it doesn't get too bright and too hot inside. This is a view of what you would see as you come in the Lady Marion entrance. That's the Lady Marion driveway on the lower right side going in. The entrance itself is a high, flat glass entry. We have the word library above it right now. That may not be what it says. It may be obvious to people that it's a library, and it may say something else. But we're demarking it as the place that you obviously know when you park where you're going to get into that building. This is a close-up of the entry. You can see on the right-hand side we have stone as the main material of the walls. We have punched glass opening into those walls, but not nearly so much as we have on the other side. This is because these spaces are less needy of natural light. On the right-hand side, that's a staff space. And on the left-hand side of the entry, that's a meeting room space, so we don't necessarily need to flood those with light. So we're using wood and stone to frame those masses. We're sloping the glass a little bit on the entry just to give it more drama. It would be a kind of glass that you'd be able to see through very easily into the interior. We think it's important wherever we have glass that the activities that are occurring behind it can be visible so that people can see that things are happening in the space. There would be, as this is developed further, some possible walk-up book drop to the right of the entrance, smart lockers where you can pick up holds after hours, things like that. Those would all be developed as part of this entry area. So this is looking back up at the building, and you can see the cascading site allows for the opportunity to create some outdoor space, an outdoor patio area that could have some seating, perhaps a small stage, and a place where people can engage in some outdoor programs or activities. The right-hand side view where the little person is standing is the meeting room area. I know I said we don't need lots of light in the meeting rooms, but in this instance, on this wall, we're going to bring some light in. And then the left-hand side of that is the children's area, and then cascading up the site is the adult area. that's just another shot really looking more centered on the outdoor area that would be created. And then this is a view that you'd be standing in the middle of the parking lot site across from our site, across Fort Campbell. And you can see that in order to filter some of the light that's coming into that will be coming in from the sun, we're using wood at the very top of the glass and then a metal screen below it to filter the light so that it isn't, as I said, it isn't flooding the interior too much during the times of the day when too much sun wouldn't be desirable. We'll probably develop this to a higher level, or we will develop this to a higher level, but here's just a little bit of close-up of what's happening on the exterior. You can see the glass, the wood, the metal roof, the screen, the solar screen, and then we probably will have something on the glass itself at the worst sun angles to keep the sun from flooding in. And finally, this is just a view from probably the residential area if you were floating above the trees. This is the drone view, maybe, that just shows the cascading of the site on the left, parking lot on the right, the main entry, and then the massing of the meeting area and the children's area beyond. Sort of sums up what's happening with the building in one view. And I think that's it.
Thank you, Kevin. Martha, do you have anything you want to add?
No. Anybody has any general questions about this? We'd be happy to try to answer.
Commissioner Vallejos?
Could I have Martha back up there, please? Well, Martha, since you called me out, let me respond.
Okay.
First of all,
okay.
first I applaud you for all that you're doing, and you made it sound like the library was closing. It was on dire straits. It's not closing, and I applaud you for everything and all the people do out there and your workers, and you do a wonderful job. So I applaud you, and I thank you for what you're doing. But my response was based on an article on Forbes magazine and on two other studies, and it was not something I made up.
Oh, no.
Let me finish. Second, I also asked you how much the foundation would be contributing to this should we decide to go forward. Still haven't heard. Several of us also asked you, why didn't the library board think about leasing possible space on North Clarkville, maybe possible saving dollars and seeing how it would go down the road. And of course, you said this, that wasn't, you wanted a new library, but I thought many of the county commissioners had asked that also. Now, with the possible expansion of 2 schools and real new future, 2 new schools coming out, not just the expansion, but 2 other schools, we got parks going up, we got a plaza coming out, we got other things and studies being taken on, and you mentioned the parks. There was a loud cry from the community for the need of that in the county that had never had anything done in Palmyra, never had nothing done out there. And now that every weekend it's packed out there. So you mentioned the parks, and like I said, it's being well served out there. I mean, if you look at this, the county clerk is busting at the seams even after renovation, and people are busting in there to get marriage license, passports, license plates. They're doing everything, and her people are working around the clock trying to keep that place staffed. If you also look, which has nothing to do with us, at the state license bureau, we got one place serving this whole community, and it's a little bitty, and you got to make an appointment. So it's not serving the people well. So while it's out of it's only one. It's the state's responsibility, and while North Clarkville is neglected, it's not our fault that it took so long for you to come to us, and of course it was not your fault either. But so please understand that you had calls out, but that's our job to ask you those questions. And if we didn't, we wouldn't be doing our job. So it's unfair for you to say that, because all I was simply doing was responding to a study based on Forbes, okay? So we'll have this on Wednesday, and I appreciate you presenting to this body, this presentation. Thank you so much.
May I respond?
If you like, please.
I had no negative thought about. I just wanted to say that these were the two commissioners that asked me the questions. That was the main thing. As far as parks, I am #1 proponent of parks. I run at Liberty Park. It's my park several times a week, so I am all for parks. I just think parks are important. Libraries are as important as parks. I'm trying to think of what else you brought up. It was legitimate, definitely, to bring up the aspect of traffic being down in libraries. As I said, traffic is down all over, and it's a concern for brick and mortar everywhere. So, and the other consideration, I think it was Commissioner Harper that had asked about, in another venue, about whether we had looked at an existing store or an existing building. During this process, I think there was one building that we looked at. It was an existing furniture store on Fort Campbell Boulevard. It wasn't, I don't remember what the name of it was, but the architects came to the conclusion that it would have to be demolished. So we wouldn't be able to use that building even though it was existing. I think that addresses your concerns, but in no way was I trying to call you out. So I appreciate your comments.
Thank you. Thank you.
Commissioner Riccone?
Martha, I just want to thank you for your hard work and dedication. We're privileged to have you serve as a director out there, and how much you care and how much you bring to the job is immeasurable, and we're fortunate that you're there and that you love the library as much as you do. I'm not saying you call me out. You know, we ask questions in budget, that happens.
Absolutely.
I think my main thing is I wish the library, the board, or you, as you move forward, you would look at rental space or to buy and refurbish an existing building. If you rent a 6,000 square foot spot in a strip center at $20 a square foot, you're looking at $120,000 a year. That's $10,000 a month. Probably get some build out. And then as you progress and maybe have one or two of those and you start saying, these are full, then we take the next step and say, we've had these 2 or 3 satellite offices, which are rentals, or we've bought an existing structure. And it doesn't have to be as fancy as that. That's a beautiful building. And then after we gauge the usage, then maybe we look at putting something like that in the ground somewhere else.
Okay.
So I just applaud your dedication and hard work, and just wish I was wanting y'all to look at maybe some cheaper alternatives at the beginning so we can take baby steps into it.
Okay. The other thing that you had mentioned was the response from the library board in terms of funding, and we did get that response, but I was told that we should not discuss that this evening. What do you?
I was going to advise the commission that we did get a response from Ms. Hendricks this morning, and because the budget committee has to act on it, I just felt it was no reason to throw that number out here tonight. So I advised her not to give that number out. And matter of fact, I don't even know what it is.
Would you like me to say it tonight, or do you want me to wait until Wednesday? Because there will be an offer of some very substantial assistance from the library board.
That's totally up to you.
Okay. Well, if they're comfortable with waiting, I'm comfortable with waiting. I think part of the problem with Montgomery County, as I understand it, it is the only county in Tennessee of the 95 counties that has one incorporated city. So I think there's kind of a mindset where there's one big city, there hasn't been a lot of small towns that would naturally have libraries rise, you know, and become like Sumner County, for example. And so we do have one county clerk's office, and I know she's wanted to have satellites. I think we kind of have to break through the mentality. We have such a large population now of one of everything, and it's just going to have, something is going to have to be the thing that breaks that cycle. So, does anyone else have any questions?
Any other questions?
Thank you so
All
much
right,
for your
thank you,
time.
ma'am. All right, Commissioners, our next order of business is approval of our April 10th, 2017 minutes. Is there a motion for approval? Commissioner Riccone, second. Commissioner Creek, any discussion on the minutes? If you would, please register your vote. Does anyone want to change their vote? Ms. Jackson, would you please tally the vote?
You have 21 yeses, 0 noes, 0 abstentions.
Thank you, ma'am. Next item on our agenda are zoning resolutions. Our first resolution is CZ 6, 2017, application of Gregory L. Ushery from AG to EM1. Is there a motion for approval? Commissioner Harper, second. Commissioner Aubert, any discussion on CZ 6 2017? If you would, please register your vote. Would anyone like to change their vote? Ms. Jackson, would you please tally the vote?
We have 21 yeses, 0 abstentions, 0 noes.
Thank you, ma'am. CZ 7 2017, application of Louis Bumpus from AG to E1. Is there a motion for approval? Commissioner Arnold Hodges, is there a second? Commissioner Redd, any discussion on CZ 7 2017? If you would, please register your vote. Would anyone like to change their vote? Ms. Jackson, would you please tally the vote?
You have 21 yeses, 0 noes, 0 abstentions.
Thank you, ma'am. CZ 8 2017, application of JAC Investments LLC from AG to C5. Is there a motion for approval? Commissioner Riccone, second. Commissioner Jason Hodges, any discussion? If you would, please register your vote. Would anyone like to change their vote? Ms. Jackson, would you please tally the vote?
You have 15 yeses, 6 noes, 0 abstentions.
Thank you, ma'am. Resolution CZ 9 2017, application of Bryant Land Partnership from AG to E1A. Is there a motion for approval? Commissioner Redd, is there a second? Commissioner White, any discussion on CZ 9 2017? If you would, please register your vote. Would anyone like to change their vote? Ms. Jackson, would you please tally the vote?
21 yeses, 0 noes, 0 abstentions.
Thank you, ma'am. Next item on our agenda are our resolutions. Our first resolution is 1734, resolution to increase the countywide motor vehicle tax. This was postponed from March. Is there a motion for approval? Commissioner Nichols, second. Commissioner Keene, any discussion? Commissioner Nichols.
Thank you, Mayor. Mayor and Commissioners, I would like to make an amendment to this resolution, reducing the increase from $50 to a $30 increase to the wheel tax.
We have an amendment to the original motion, reducing the increase from $50 to $30. Is there a second? Commissioner Riccone, any discussion on the amendment? We'll now vote on the, we're going to vote on the amendment and then the resolution as amended, correct?
Yes, sir. I just need a point of clarification. Is the clerk's fee still in that? We had a $1 clerk's fee in there. I just wanted to make sure that that was still included. Okay. thank
Yes,
you.
ma'am. So, right, yeah. So now we're voting on the amendment only, with no discussion. Commissioner Sokol, I'm sorry, Ms. Brockman.
I have another amendment. Shall we do that now, or do we want to vote on the first one?
I think it'd be cleaner if we voted on this one first and then come to you. Is that okay with you?
Yeah.
So any discussion on the amendment? Commissioner Sokol, if you would, hit your button. There you go. Thank you.
Thank you. How many votes are required for this? I know we need a supermajority for the next.
Motion to amend is
Majority, all right. Thank you.
All right. Motion to pass the resolution is 2/3, if that's what you call a supermajority, but that's on the main motion.
Thank you.
Any other discussion on the amendment? We're now voting on the amendment to 1734, reducing the amount from $50 to $30. If you would, please register your vote. Would anyone like to change their vote? Ms. Jackson, would you please tally the vote?
You have 15 yeses, 6 noes, and 0 abstentions.
Thank you, ma'am. We're now voting on CZ 314 as amended. Ms. Brockman, did you have something you wanted to add?
Yes, sir. I would like to amend it to read, "The privilege tax imposed for the use of the highways in Montgomery County and operation thereon shall not apply to non-resident military personnel. The county clerk shall not require such non-residential military personnel to pay the local motor vehicle privilege tax when such person is paying the state registration fee. This exemption is limited to 1 per household."
Did everyone hear her motion?
I did not either, Mayor.
If you don't mind, would you pull that microphone over and just read it again, if you don't mind, please, ma'am?
Okay, "The privilege tax imposed for the use of the highways in Montgomery County and operation thereon shall not apply to non-resident military personnel. The county clerk shall not require such resident military personnel to pay the local motor vehicle privilege tax when such person is paying the state registration fee. This exemption is limited to 1 per household."
I think what Ms. Brockman's motion is that the military exemption will be limited to 1 per household. Non-resident, 1 per household. We have a motion. Do we have a second? Commissioner Riccone, second. Discussion on the amendment. Commissioner Vallejos?
Yes, Mayor, thank you. If we could have our county attorney address this on the legality of it, please.
You know that we believed a private act had been passed that reads exactly the same as this, and except it did not limit it to 1 per household. We found that private act was never adopted, so there is no exemption. If this passes and there is an exemption of 1 per household, I do not believe it triggers anything in the Soldiers and Sailors Civil Relief Act. If it triggers anything, it would possibly trigger whether a non-resident can be taxed. This is a special exemption for non-resident military, limit 1 per household. There are 2 options we have. I believe it's appropriate to pass it. I can't guarantee that the analysis will always be what I can predict, but I predict it would be a valid exemption, limitation of 1 per household. That's the question, whether or not you can limit it to 1 per household, because you are exempting it. We can ask the Attorney General for an opinion, and again, that's just an opinion, but we could do that and see what the Attorney General says. Your resolution that you have says that if it is found to be invalid in any part, then that part will be deemed invalid, but the remaining will stay the same. So we can either wait for it to be challenged and look at it at that time. We can ask for an Attorney General opinion, but the best estimate I can give you is an exemption means you're not going to tax them. An exemption, but limited to 1 per household, would be the question, can you tax them on the second one? And I think you can, because they're asking to register their car here by the special provisions of their non-resident military status.
Any other discussion? Okay, now we're voting on the Second Amendment to Resolution 1734. Does everyone understand the amendment? If you would, please register your vote. Would anyone like to change their vote? Ms. Jackson, would you please tally the vote?
You have 13 yeses, 8 noes, and 0 abstentions.
Thank you, ma'am. Now we're back on the original motion as amended twice, amended to reduce it from $50 to $30 and to also allow for only 1 exemption per household for military non-residents. Is there a motion for approval? Commissioner Jason Hodges, second. Commissioner Keene. Commissioner Harper.
Yes, Mayor, thank you. I'd like to make an amendment to the motion, and I would like to request that the school system do a countywide rezoning so we can balance out the population at the schools.
So your motion is for the school system to do a countywide rezoning. I don't, a request. I don't know that that's a proper amendment to this. I'll have to ask Mr. Harvey.
I suppose you can move to amend to add anything, Mayor, but yes, I think you can move to add that amendment to it. It will need a second. It will need a vote.
So we have a motion to amend Resolution 1734 to request the school system to do a countywide rezoning. Is there a second? We have a second by Commissioner Gannon. Any discussion? Commissioner Vallejos?
Thank you, Mayor. If there any way we could get Dr. Worthington up here to tell us or give us how many students are totally impacted right now by this rezoning? Is that possible?
I think that number's been told to us. It'd be about 1,500 students.
Okay. So then the question is, so the rezoning is 1,500 students, and is that at the is that at all? Is that a total in all 3 levels?
That's my understanding. Is that not true?
That's only for elementary. It's only for the elementary. For the high schools and middle school, we did our last rezone this fall. So you see those numbers for people in middle school, those right?
We can request it. To do it, they don't have to do it.
Thank you.
Commissioner Redd.
Thank you, Mayor. It seems to me, I'm not saying I'm necessarily against the amendment, but I think it would be better if it would be at some time in the future, a standalone type resolution rather than an amendment to this resolution that's just telling us how much that the wheel tax should be raised by. Thanks.
Anyone else? And I just for comment, all we're doing is requesting them to do it. Unfortunately, I don't know that we can tell them to do it. If we don't fund something, then I think that's their only option. But to request them to do it, in my opinion, it takes this resolution totally off the table regarding the wheel tax. And I stand to be corrected.
Well, there's no doubt this is a wheel tax resolution, and it's written specifically for a specific purpose, and it has a statutory requirement of 2/3 votes at 2 consecutive meetings. So it's by special design. I can't suggest to you that it's improper to make the amendment. I've already said that, but it is a special resolution that has a special statutory place designed specifically for the creation of a wheel tax, and it has special requirements of passage, whereas the language of the amendment would be, in my opinion, a simple resolution. I'm not aware of any statutory requirement for that. But as I understand the amendment, it's a request to ask for a rezoning.
And Mr. Harper, I stand corrected. If this is just a request, all it is, we would still be voting on a $30 increase to the wheel tax with one non-resident military exemption per military household and a request for the school system to do a rezoning. Commissioner Harper.
Thanks, Mayor. So, Tim, can we add this amendment? Is that?
I think yes. I've said I think you can add the amendment. I'm just saying you're adding it to a special statute that has special passage requirements. And typically, the onerous burden of 2 consecutive meetings and 2/3 vote would attach only to specific legislation like a wheel tax. But I think you can add the amendment if it's passed.
Mayor, I think I'd like to withdraw the amendment. If
Commissioner Gannon, you withdraw your second? Okay, thank you. So we're back to voting on the resolution as amended, 1734. Again, the two amendments are a reduction from $50 to $30, and we are also exempting one exemption per non-resident military per household. Any other discussion? If you would, please register your vote. Would anyone like to change their vote? Ms. Jackson, would you please tally the vote?
You have 10 yeses, 11 noes, and 0 abstentions.
Thank you, ma'am. Resolution 1735, resolution of Montgomery County Board of Commissioners amending funds for the classroom addition at Barker's Mill Elementary School. Is there a motion for approval? Commissioner Keene, is there a second? Commissioners, we need to vote on this one way or another. Is there a second? Commissioner Vallejos, any discussion on 1735? Commissioner Riccone.
I mean, it's my understanding we just lost the funding for the next two, and I know in budget, we're gonna go back, I assume, and we had $10 million of capital projects we're trying to move the county forward on with different parts and different things, and we talked about that's gonna go away. So are we gonna go ahead, I mean, to me, if we don't have a wheel tax, which apparently we don't have, then every capital project this year just died, right? And these two have to die. I just want to make sure I'm understanding everything, because we can't fund these next two if we didn't pass the wheel tax, right?
We would either have to fund them with the wheel tax or with property tax dollars.
So we're going to have to raise property taxes, or, so that's what I'm trying to figure out.
Or eliminate some of our capital projects that the Budget Committee has approved.
Which would be all of them, most likely, because we only had 9 million or 11 million of it.
I would say that would be correct, but it'd be up to the Budget Committee.
Just so I understand where we are.
Commissioner Harper?
Thank you, Mayor. I move to table 1735 and 1736 together.
You want to speak to the table?
I do. Commissioner, do you candidly, do you really mean table or move to postpone to the next meeting?
Postpone actually until after the budget.
The table has a different effect.
Right, I misspoke.
so-
I misspoke. I
All
would
right.
like to defer for 1 month.
All right. So if the clerk can, that motion needs to be phrased in postpone to a definite date, and the date needs to be the next council, commission meeting.
We're going to defer until the next formal county commission meeting or informal county
Yes.
commission meeting. Thank you.
Thank you,
Which
Tim.
would be June 12th. So your motion is to defer till June 12th?
Yes, yes, sir.
We have a motion and a second to defer 1735 and 1736 until our June 12th informal meeting. Is there a second? Commissioner Redd, any discussion? If you would, please register your vote. Would anyone like to change their vote? Ms. Jackson, would you please tally the vote?
You have 19 yeses, 2 noes, and 0 abstentions.
Thank you, ma'am. Resolution 1751, resolution accepting the Public Improvements Program and Capital Budget 2017-2018 through 2021-22 compiled by the Clarksville Montgomery County Regional Planning Commission 2017. Is there a motion for approval? Commissioner Brockman, second. Commissioner Redd, any discussion on 1751? If you would, please register your vote. Would anyone like to change their vote? Ms. Jackson, would you please tally the vote?
We have 21 yeses, 0 no's, 0 abstentions.
Thank you, ma'am. 1752, resolution to request unclaimed balance of accounts remitted to the state treasurer under the Unclaimed Property Act. Is there a motion for approval? Commissioner Tooley, second Commissioner Baggett. Any discussion? If you would, please register your vote. Would anyone like to change their vote? Ms. Jackson, would you please tally the vote?
We have 21 yeses, 0 no's, 0 abstentions.
1753, resolution authorizing submission of application for a grant to continue the litter and trash collection program contracted with the Tennessee Department of Transportation. Is there a motion for approval? Commissioner Brockman, second Commissioner Genius. Any discussion? If you would, please register your vote. Would anyone like to change their vote? Ms. Jackson, would you please tally the vote?
We have 21 yeses, 0 no's, 0 abstentions.
Resolution 1754, resolution of support in construction and completion of an industrial access road in the North Industrial Park. Is there a motion for approval? Commissioner Butts, is there a second? Commissioner Riccone? Any discussion? If you would, please register your vote. Would anyone like to change their vote? Ms. Jackson, would you please tally the vote?
We have 21 yeses, 0 no's, 0 abstentions.
Resolution 1755, resolution requesting passage of a private act by the General Assembly prohibiting officials and/or spouses to be employed by Montgomery County government. Is there a motion for approval? Commissioner Redd, is there a second? Commissioner Gibbs, any discussion? Commissioner Vallejos?
Thank you, Mayor. First, I'd like to applaud Commissioner Redd for being appointed to replace Wayne Odom, who passed away, to the State Executive Committee. Second, Commissioners, once again, I think it's important that you vote no on this. It's already been done at the state. No need to repeat this. But it's almost like he was a city councilman and a county commissioner, and there was this where they
Commissioner Vallejos, please don't bring personalities in.
But I'm just talking about. So I'm just talking here. I think it's important that we understand that, you know, this here is coming against our county, our fellow commissioners, and like I say, he's not coming against them personally. He said, but I think this is a vote against our fellow commissioners. I just ask you to vote no on this.
Commissioner Redd?
Thank you, Mayor. I guess I would like to remind the members, we are to debate the motion and not the member. And this is not a resolution against any of my fellow commissioners. As a matter of fact, the current commissioners, the resolution states that they're exempt from that. I have nothing against any of my fellow commissioners whatsoever, and I'll just ask you if you would please vote for it. If there's some portion that you feel like that's in here you would like to amend, I'm open for any amendments. Thank you, Mayor.
Thank you, Commissioner Redd. Commissioner Gannon?
Reiterate that what we had sent around, that this was just legislated by our state legislators within the last year and was passed in 2016. And you saw the bill that I emailed to everyone that showed that what it came down to, and that pretty much that we all learned of in 2016.
Thank you. Commissioner Sokol?
Thank you, Mayor. I would like to be refreshed on the conversation we had last week, whether or not this was a private act or what it was, because I think that Commissioner Redd was specific about it being a private act, and then there was some language concerning what it actually was.
Mr. Harvey, do you want to address that? I don't have the resolution right in front of me.
I have it in front of me. Yes, we had that discussion, and we talked about the act, and we discussed whether I had reviewed it previously. As it stands right now, and on this motion, it simply request the General Assembly to pass a private act. And so we did have that discussion. I also talked with Commissioner Redd about that, and you know, you gentlemen and ladies make motions and move to amend and so forth, and he and I discussed that after the last session as well. So as it stands right now, the motion and the second and the discussion is for a resolution that currently is simply asking for a private act change.
Thank you.
Commissioner Redd.
Quickly, I'd like to say that, no, this is not passed by the General Assembly. Currently, if you're a county commissioner, you can still be an employee of the county. That's kind of, I'm not quite understanding that assertion that somehow that this had passed at some point. And respectfully, if someone would like to make a motion to amend the private act out and make it into general law, I would welcome the motion, probably would even vote for it. Thank you, Mayor.
Commissioner Gannon.
Just a point of information, the one that was passed by the legislators started out in this vein and then came down to where it just defined what an employee is. And number two, point of information, Attorney Harvey, the state legislature can proceed with something like this without any kind of resolution or anything from us, just like they did on the previous one that went through the legislation and that was legislated across the state that I mailed out.
Yes.
Any other discussion? If you would, please register your vote. Would anyone like to change their vote? I'm sorry, would anyone like to change their vote? Ms. Jackson, would you please tally the vote?
You have 4 yeses, 13 noes, 4 abstentions.
Thank you, ma'am. Oh, man. My computer messed up, I'm sorry. Yep. I got it. Thank you. Next item of business is, excuse me, Resolution 1756, resolution of the Montgomery County Board of Commissioners to form a charter commission by appointment. Is there a motion for approval? Commissioner Hodges, second. Commissioner Keene. Any discussion on 1756? If you would, please register your vote. Would anyone like to change their vote? Ms. Jackson, would you please tally the vote?
We have 13 yeses, 8 noes, 0 abstentions.
Thank you, ma'am. Resolution 1757, resolution of the Montgomery County Board of Commissioners authorizing lease of computers, student laptops. Without objection, we'll take 1758 as well. It's a resolution of Montgomery County Board of Commissioners authorizing lease of computers for teacher laptops. Is there a motion for approval? Commissioner Harper, second. Commissioner Gannon, any discussion? If you would, please register your vote. Would anyone like to change their vote? Ms. Jackson, would you please tally the vote?
We have 21 yeses, 0 noes, 0 abstentions.
Next item of business is our county clerk's report. This will require approval by the commission. Ms. Jackson, would you like to read your report?
Comes Kelly A. Jackson, County Clerk, Montgomery County, Tennessee, and presents the County Clerk's report for the month of April 2017. I hereby request that the persons named on the list of new applicants to the office of Notary Public be elected. The oaths of the Sheriff's Deputy and the Judicial Commissioner are approved as taken. This report shall be spread upon the minutes of the Board of County Commissioners. You received your list of new applicants last Monday for notaries. You do not have any that are signed by personal surety, and you do not have any names that need to be read into the record for bonds.
Is there a motion for approval for the clerk's report? Commissioner Creed, second.
Yes, I was trying to get previous to the county clerk's report, because I'd like to make a motion to reconsider 17-3-4.
Commissioner Harper, we have a motion on the floor. At this time, I'll allow you to bring that up after that if you'd like to.
That'd be great. Thank you.
So we have a motion and a second to approve the clerk's report. Any discussion? If you would, please register your vote. Would anyone like to change their vote? Ms. Jackson, would you please tally the vote?
We have 21 yeses, 0 noes, 0 abstentions.
Commissioner Harper.
Thank you, Mayor. I'd like to make a motion to reconsider 17-3-4 and raise it to,
I'm not doing that. I know you think I am.
raise it by $15 instead of $30.
Commissioner, I think the first thing you have to do is make the motion to reconsider. And then we have to,
Okay.
assuming you were on the prevailing side.
I was.
No was the prevailing side. You
Correct.
make a motion to reconsider. If it gets a second, a majority vote's required to get the motion back on the table as it last left the floor. Then discussion and amendment if that's appropriate.
As always, Tim, thank you for your help.
Thank you, sir.
I'd like to make a motion to reconsider 17-3-4.
Is there a second? Commissioner King, Ms. Jackson, would you just affirm that Mr. Harper was on the prevailing side? Could you affirm that on that vote, please?
Yes, sir, just one moment.
He said he was, and I believe him, but I just think the record should indicate it from the clerk.
Commissioner Harper voted no, which was the prevailing side.
Thank you, ma'am. So we have a motion and a second to reconsider 17-3-4.
And Mayor, if I may, it was amended to include an exemption, one per household, and at $30, that's the way it failed. So that's where it starts on your on the motion now up for reconsideration.
So we have a motion and a second for reconsideration of 17-3-4. Any discussion? If you would, please register your vote. This is just a motion to reconsider 17-3-4. Ms. Jackson, would you please tally the vote?
We have 15 yeses, 6 noes, 0 abstentions.
Thank you, ma'am. All right. Commissioner Harper.
Thank you, Mayor. I'd like to make an amendment to 17-3-4 to amend the change to $15 instead of $30.
Would you accept the exemption as well, Mr. Harper?
I will.
So we have a motion and a second on Resolution 17-3-4, which is being reconsidered. The amount will be, as opposed to $50, will be $15, and the exemption that we mentioned earlier will still be in place. Any discussion? Commissioner Riccone.
Well, I would, and I'm sure everybody could feel my frustration earlier, so I'm going to try to kind of parse this out. I'm glad it's up for reconsideration, for being reconsidered. I don't think 15 is the right number, but we've got to pass something. So I want to applaud our mayor, because historically what it's always been is we sit here and we fund stuff as a county commission, and then the school system knocks on the door and says, we need a school for $68 million. And then we drop everything as a county. We don't do a thing, and we pour this money into a school, and we generate debt, and we do bonds, and school, school, school. And then all of a sudden, nothing's moved. Parks hasn't moved. There's been no improvements to no buildings are falling apart. So then we scramble, we try to, right now, we're putting millions of dollars to fix buildings that we let dilapidate. And so our mayor reached out to the school system and said, instead of y'all knocking on our door telling us when you need something, let's sit down and have a strategic plan. Let's look out 10 years, 15 years, 20 years. Where are you going to be and what are you going to need? Now, I know there's a thought, do they need schools or not? Well, let's just assume that everything they're saying is correct. And so we sat down, and the mayor did with BJ, and they came to the budget committee and said, here's our growth and our projections. And we tried to come up with a plan in the budget committee that says, we're not going to move the ball forward and let the rest of the balls die. We're not going to do a school and ignore everything. Let's get a plan to where we can plan for funding a school, we can have money available for a school, yet we can still continue to move the county forward. And I should have said this at the first vote, but I guess I just thought everybody was on the same page, maybe not. So we came up with this plan, and the wheel tax was the plan, because outside of the wheel tax, it's going to have to be property tax, and nobody wants a property tax. So through the mayor's office and the school system, they've looked at a timetable of how to keep the county moving forward, how to maintain our buildings, how to provide parks, how to do things that help the community and still intelligently plan for the school system. And that's where we are. I truly don't, and I think we need a wheel tax. I'm strongly for a wheel tax. It's got to go up. I don't think 15 is the right number. I kind of thought 30 was the right number, but that ship has sailed. I'd like to see maybe 20 or 25, but if we pass 15, 15 is the number. But we need it for the county, because we can't build a school, ignore everything else, or ignore everything else and then, and then do one or the other. I will say this, my mathematical side came out, which is a really weak side, but in 1986, wheel tax was $30. We've had 122% inflation since 1986. So $30 in 1986 is $9.95 today. So working on what was passed in 1986, we are paid about $9.95 if that would have been if that was the number that they paid in 86. If we simply moved the wheel tax to where it was still $30 today from back then we'd have to raise the wheel tax $96.73, raise it $96. So even raising it $15, raising it $30, whatever the amount is, it's still lower than what it was in 1986 in dollars to dollars. So I think we need to pass the wheel tax. Again, I think it needs to be higher, but at this point, the budget, us moving forward, is all predicated on getting this money, because nobody wants property taxes. Thank you.
Thank you, Commissioner Riccone. Commissioner Johnson?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I think everyone in this room is aware that I've been opposed to this from this beginning, at times rather aggressively. I will say that I believe that this is a compromise that I could live with. I hope that my fellow commissioners feel the same. I must say I am still not thrilled with the exemption part of it, but I believe that is a compromise that is at least palatable. Thank you.
Anyone else? Commissioners, I'd just like to say something if I could. We've been working on this since December, and I think it's a pretty well-known fact that for us to generate any revenue, we have two sources. We have the wheel tax and we have the property tax. And when Dr. Worthington and his group came to Jeff and I, we sat down and we looked at it, and I think, commissioners, when we brought $50 to the table, we brought $50 to the table, and that would have put us on a path that would make us financially sound throughout the debt of what the school system had asked for. We would have had to do something probably in 2030, maybe 2033. But I think we would have left it in a lot better shape than sometimes we've been left, or this body has been left before. Did I want to do that? Absolutely not. Do I want to be up here tonight talking about it? Absolutely not. But it's a problem that's been presented to us. It's been put in front of us. And I think it's our job as administration to submit some alternatives to you. And so we set $50 out there. The wheels went in motion. We had public hearings. We had roundtables with the school system. Some people came, some people didn't. We asked for a public hearing. we had maybe 6 commissioners there. Nobody else came. I think there was 3 people from the public. And so here we are tonight, and we're at $15. So I personally just think we got to do something if we're going to go forward and fund these additions to these schools. And if we're going to do that, I don't think property tax is the way to pay for it. So, thank you. Any other discussion?
Mayor,
Yes, ma'am.
for information, I only have Mr. Harper as a motion. Was there a second?
I think Commissioner Johnson did, I think. I don't want to put you, Commissioner Tooley, okay.
Thank you.
So we have a motion and a second. Any other discussion? We're voting on 1734. We have a motion to amend to $15 and the one exemption per non-residence military family as well. If you would, please register your vote. Would anyone like to change their vote? Ms. Jackson, would you please tally the vote?
You have 15 yeses, 6 noes, 0 abstentions.
Thank you, ma'am. All right. Who? Commissioner Hodges?
Yeah, could we possibly reconsider 1735 and 1736 now, since we did pass
I think if you'd
funding?
like to make a motion for that.
Yeah, I'd like to make a motion.
All you've done is amend that other resolution.
The 335, hey, help me out just a little bit here, Madam Clerk.
Yes,
Are
sir.
those the ones that we deferred until the
Yeah, they
next
were.
Yes.
meeting?
Yes, sir.
Yes.
5 and 6.
It's not on the table. You've deferred those to the next meeting, and that's an action on the motion. The difference is a motion to table is a temporary motion that you take up at the end of that meeting or the issue dies.
We don't have a table.
And we
It
don't
was
have a table.
postponed. So he can't ask to reconsider the postponement.
No.
Okay.
Well, if you're on the prevailing side, you can file, that's an excellent point, and it didn't occur to me, I'm sorry. That motion passed.
Yeah.
If you voted for it, you can make a motion to reconsider the motion upon which you were a prevailing party.
Yes, so I'll make a motion to reconsider postponement.
If y'all would just give me a quick timeout. Ms. Jackson, did we actually vote on 1534? We amended it, but I think when we reconsidered it,
I don't
think the
think we went
amendment
back
would
to the
be
original
voting on
motion.
it? No, ma'am?
No, sir, we amended it, but we did not go back to the original motion.
Okay. So I apologize, Commissioner Hodges, I'll come back to you. We need to go back to Resolution 1734 and vote on it as amended. And that amendment was $15 in the one exemption per household on the military. Any discussion? If you would, please register your vote.
Mayor, I'm sorry, I don't have a motion and second on that, do I? Does it go,
No, we voted on it as amended. Now it's 1734, but I didn't ask for a motion for approval or a second. I'm sorry.
that's okay.
So is there a motion for approval for 1734 as amended? Commissioner Brockman, second. Commissioner King. Any discussion? As amended, $15 in the exemption of one military, one person per household. If you would, please, Commissioner Harper.
Mayor, just so I'm certain about what's actually transpired, what did we vote on when we voted earlier? Because I'm confused.
So am I. But we voted to reconsider 1734. 1734, you asked for an amendment to it, to reduce it to $15 and to change and to leave the exemption that Ms. Brockman brought up earlier in place. So we voted on the amendment. Now we're back to voting on 1734 as amended.
If I'm not mistaken, we voted twice. We took it, we reconsidered it, and then the amendment that I asked for, the $15, we voted on that as well.
Yes, sir. And so you amended 1734 from $50 to $15. You asked to reconsider 1734, and you amended it.
Now we're going to vote on
And we haven't
Now
voted.
now we're voting on the actual resolution.
We're voting on 1734
I'm clear
as
now.
amended by.
Thank you very much for explaining that. I appreciate it.
Any further discussion? If you would, please register your vote. Would anyone like to change their vote? Ms. Jackson, would you please tally the vote?
We have 15 yeses, 6 noes, 0 abstentions.
Commissioner Hodges, were you on the prevailing side?
I was.
You were?
Yes.
To table or to postpone?
Yes.
Okay. Could you verify that, Ms. Jackson?
Yes, sir. Just one
Not
moment.
that I don't
You don't
trust.
trust me?
Just one moment, please.
No, it was two that voted against it.
Yes, he voted yes, which was the prevailing side.
Thank you, ma'am. Commissioner Hodges, you have a motion to reconsider 1735 and 1736, is that correct?
Yes.
Is there a second? Commissioner Gannon, any discussion? Commissioner Redd?
This motion is a motion to reconsider postponement, correct?
Yes, first, yes.
First, okay.
If y'all say so. So we have a motion and a second to reconsider postponement of Resolution 1735 and Resolution 1736. If you would, please register your vote. Commissioner Albert? Would anyone like to change their vote? Ms. Jackson, would you please tally the vote?
You have 17 yeses, 4 noes, 0 abstentions.
So 1735 and 1736 can now be reconsidered. Is there a motion for approval for 1735? Commissioner Hodges, second. Commissioner Keene, any discussion? Commissioner Sokol.
Thank you, Mayor. I'd like to see this deferred again because lowering the tax amount is still going to have to be studied by the Budget Committee. It's going to have to find out exactly where we stand with that. Is that correct?
I'm sorry, the wheel tax amount?
Yes, sir.
I think, just off the top of my head, Commissioner Sokol, that the wheel tax, I don't know how far out it will carry us at $15. I do not think when we originally proposed $50, it was allowing us in 19 and 20, if my years are right, to pay cash for the $2.5 million in design for a middle school and a high school. If that occurred, I don't think it will allow us to pay cash for those. But I don't have that scenario, a $15 scenario in front of me, so I really can't give you a good answer, but I'm almost certain it will not fund or pay cash for those two designs.
Well, I still believe that we need to defer these two until it's studied by the Budget Committee to find out exactly where we stand with this.
So is that in the form of a motion?
Yes, sir.
So we have a motion to defer. Commissioner Butts, second. Now we're voting on deferring 1735.
Deferring to when?
Till when, Mr. Sokol? Till you still want to use that June date?
Yes, sir. That would be after your Budget Committee meets again. Is that correct?
Yes, sir. That is correct. And that date was June 12th. Commissioner Butts, do you accept that as a friendly amendment?
Yes, sir.
So now we're voting to postpone 1735 until our March 12th, June 12th regular meeting. Any discussion? If you would, please register your vote. Would anyone like to change their vote? Ms. Jackson, would you please tally the vote?
You have 13 yeses, 8 noes, and 0 abstentions.
Commissioner Hodges, do you want to reconsider 1736? All right. Commissioners, you'll see in your agenda the reports that were filed. The ones in bold are the ones that were added since our informal session. Under the county mayor nominations, we have 1 nomination and 3 appointments. Both of these will require approval by the commission. Under judicial commissioners, Cynthia Gathers nominated to fill the unexpired term of Jose Pagan Barnset, who resigned, term to expire March 2018. That's a 1-year term. And under county mayor appointments, Personnel Advisory Committee, it's a 2-year term. Commissioner Charlie Keene appointed to replace Commissioner Robert Nichols as a county commissioner for a 2-year term to expire April 2019. Cheryl Castle appointed to replace Kelly Jackson as an elected official for a 2-year term to expire 2019. And Kenneth Gentry appointed to replace Sherry Robertson as a department head for a 2-year term to expire 2019. The chair will entertain both the nominations and the appointments in one motion without objection. Commissioner Baggett, is there a second? Commissioner Jason Hodges, any discussion on the county mayor nominations and appointments? If you would, please register your vote. Would anyone like to change their vote? Ms. Jackson, would you please tally the vote?
You have 20 yeses, 0 noes, 1 abstention.
Under announcements, you're urged to attend the budget roundtable question and answer discussion on Wednesday, May 17th at 5:00 p.m. in the large conference room. Again, that's Wednesday, May 17th at 5:00 p.m. And there will also be a public hearing on the budget will be held at 5 p.m. prior to the informal commission meeting on June 5th in the large conference room. Again, that's a public hearing on the budget, 5:00 p.m. prior to the informal commission meeting on June 5th in the large conference room. And lastly, as Commissioner Creek mentioned in his prayers at the beginning of the meeting, I would just ask all of you to keep the family of Sheriff Billy Smith in your thoughts and your prayers. With no further business, I'll call on the sheriff to adjourn us.
All rise. Oh yes, this Honorable Board of County Commissioners now stands adjourned. May God save this state and this Honorable Board of County Commissioners.